Okay guys, the next fundamental piece we will be covering is the rook. Once again, I'm Leo. The rook is the piece, or the rook, sometimes called the castle, is the piece at the four corners of the board. It is worth 5 points, making it worth more than the knight and the bishop and the pawn on the board, only being trumped in value by the queen and the king to win the game. The rook has a very interesting movement. I like to think of it like a laser. So here I have an example of a rook. These little dots are everywhere that it can move. So the rook can move in any of these directions as far as they want. The rook can move here, the rook can move here. It can go as far as it wants. What this means about the rook is that it's the most valuable in a very open position. So, or at least I believe it to be the most valuable in a very open position. This is a recreation of a position that two pro chess players were in recently, and you can kind of see how the rook is valuable, as you can get the rook right on the file, and the rook is very active as a piece. You can get it anywhere on the board, attacking anything. Both rooks are very valuable here. You can get it down to the last rank to hit the king. You can have it, you can have the rook over here attacking the knight. That's where I believe rooks find their best use, is in an open position, typically later in the game. Though, if you look here, we have a situation where, take it in for a second. This is a slightly earlier position in the game, and it's a bit more closed of a position. There's more pieces on the board. You can see we have this active rook that can move down this file, while this rook in this bottom left corner is essentially useless because it can't move. So the use of this rook is it essentially keeps pieces off of this file, and it keeps pressure on this area. So later in the game, if I want to bring my queen in, like say when this rook moves, this rook helps support that attack. Another use for rooks that is pretty interesting is that they can be used to castle. This is, I don't know if you've covered kings yet, but essentially you can only ever move one square at a time with a king. Castling is the only situation where you can move two, and then you flip your position with the rook. This only applies if the rook or the king haven't moved yet in the game. Rooks being worth 5 points tend to be a bit more valuable than bishops or knights, because they cover more of a breadth of area, and they really cut the board into small sections that pieces can't really cross. So I believe the rook to be one of the most important pieces in chess, one of the most important things to gain mastery of. Rooks also being very valuable are normally a target for opponents, so there's a lot of positions in which, I think this actually is one. No, not really, but if you imagine this here and this here, in the long term, this bishop provides an attack against that rook in that position. Like, let's say if these were to all move, that's normally how people attack rooks. They like to keep them as long-term pressure in the form of a skewer or a fork. I'm sure Brian will cover those two terms in a later video. Thank you for listening.